One of the biggest deceptions that the Roman Catholic Church, along with the Jewish powers, have implanted in believers' minds. One of the biggest things they were teaching is that a certain man. Oh, I know you didn't believe it, but I wanted to bring this out because it's not just you. It's a doctrine that Satan infiltrated on believers. Everyone is waiting for a particular time period. They're waiting for a pope to sit in Jerusalem as something prophetic. And our preachers and high learners in this society did not research the origin of that particular doctrine. They just teach it without any scriptural foundation. If you're waiting for the Pope to sit in Jerusalem, then you are a part of the strong delusion. And I'm going to prove that. We're going to give you the origin today of that doctrine. Okay? We've done some research on the doctrine under Martin Luther, the works of Martin Luther, during the time of what the Christianity Church called the Reformation, in which there was a fight. Martin Luther was fighting against the Roman Catholic Church. Last week we went into the fact that King James was fighting against the Roman Catholic Church before he was eventually, his empire fell and his son Prince Charles beheaded, putting an Idumean in his stead. So Martin Luther, during the time of the Reformation, which was in the 1500s, did the same thing. He was fighting against the Roman Catholic Church and was trying to slow down or exterminate what we would call the infiltration of Christ's church with doctrine. And you're going to find out, like the rapture, the way they indoctrinate you with the rapture teaching, the way they indoctrinate you with the way they indoctrinate us with the teaching on one man being revealed at the end, was part of the big deception to take the heat off the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church back then was known for political evil, infiltration, destruction, to the point where the Protestants and the other believers in Christ started separating themselves from the Roman Catholics' infiltration. They started separating themselves because they recognized the Roman Catholics' agenda and didn't want to be a part of this great deception that would usher in a satanic doctrine that could control the world. Martin Luther wrote of this. And there was key points the Jesuits had to set up in doctrine. And I'm going to show you these key points. And this is from the 1500s. So you would think that our theologians and ministers, people that have learned of high learning, will do the research on these doctrines and their origin, their primal origin. There are certain bullet points in all Christianity that they must believe. Now, if you go to a pastor and talk to them about these particular, what I would call heretical doctrines, they can't explain them according to the Bible, but still they would teach them in their church, which is quite interesting. Something that you can't back up through scripture, but yet you're teaching it as doctrine. Why? What people fail to realize today is that all churches in the earth stem from the Roman Catholic Church, and their doctrine comes from the Roman and the Jewish Khazar order. They're together. They were never separate. They are together. They are not separate. They are absolutely together, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Okay? So this is the reason, even though the Jewish people don't believe in Christ, they finance the Christian churches. They push a certain doctrine through the Christian churches. They have the Christian churches believing that they are the children of Israel. They are invited to speak in a lot of these Christian churches, and they are upheld in these Christian churches. Why? Because they are behind the doctrine of the Christian church. The Jewish powers, or the Khazar powers, and the Roman Catholics are one and the same. They're no different. If you don't believe this, think about it. Where did the people of the Roman Empire go? Did they disappear? Where are they? Where's the Caesars? Where are the remnant of the Caesars and the Herodian lines? Where are they? Did they just disappear off the earth? No, they didn't. They hide themselves under different names and infiltrate the one world order plan that was in place when Satan bare rule on this earth, giving mankind and kingdoms to societies and to the heathen powers. The Greeks and the Romans took this power, but they had to deceive the people and befriend the people into believing that they were the people of Christ. So what did they do? They planned wars, destroyed things through war, killing and destruction. Then they come under the guise of what we would call philanthropy, and come behind and clean things up and help a few sick kids, and you'll think that they are the righteous. But they're only healing some of the ills they've created on the earth. But they promote it. And through psychology, the people think that these figures in religion are righteous figures. So, number one, and I want all of us to understand this, and I need you brothers and sisters to really pay close attention to this, because I don't know how long we will be able to do this like we're doing it right now. So I need you to pay close attention, all right? We are not on an agenda to stop the Roman Catholic Church. We are not on an agenda to stop the Khazar Jewish powers. We cannot stop them. This is not our mission. Christ is going to take them out of the way. We are here to put out a word to those that are in the truth, or that would believe the truth, to give you the research so that you don't be deceived by the strong delusion and die with them. Okay? That's our point. If we give you the facts, and listen, they can erase what they want, they can take it down, they can delete the accounts, but if you have the research yourself, the idea lives. So we're here to give you the information you need so that you cannot be deceived by the strong delusion. And then you can spread this to others, because this strong delusion is deeply embedded in our culture, in our society, in our religion, and in our thought patterns. Okay? So if our foundation is the scriptures, it doesn't matter what they put out on the news. We can filter all their mess through the scriptures, and we'll know what's valid and we'll know what's not valid. If anyone out there, Christian or any religion alike, if you are waiting for one man to get a position in this earth and think that that's equated to prophecy or the beginning of a time period in the earth, you are part of the strong delusion. You are delusional. And I'm going to prove it. I'm going to prove it. First of all, we must first understand the agenda of the Roman Catholic Church and what the disciples were fighting against. We have a book here, and the brother let me borrow this, called The History of the First Council of Nicaea. Right? So, brothers and sisters, we as followers of Christ must first understand the agenda of the enemy. What doctrine he would use, what tactics he would use. What do the enemy believe? What do the enemy's followers believe? Go to Acts 16 and 20. We go into Acts, the 16th chapter. Acts 16. And let's start at the let's start at the 16th verse. 16 and 16. Read.
Acts chapter 16, verse 16. And it came to pass, as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying.
So it says, and it came to pass as we went to prayer, a certain damsel possessed with a spirit of divination met us, which brought her masters much gain by soothsaying. So anyone that do soothsaying and telling you the future according to some spirit or divination, according to the Bible, they have familiar spirits. I want to bring that out because the disciples dealt with this in the past. These days and times, these same people that are riddled with demons and spirits are revered in our societies as gifted people, when really they have a demon up in them, giving them prophetic understanding according to the course of this world to control people. I just wanted to bring that out. Read.
Verse 17. The same followed Paul and us, and cried, saying, These men are the servants of the Most High God, which show unto us the way of salvation. And this did she many days. But Paul, being grieved, turned and said to the Spirit, I command thee in the name of Yeshua Christ to come out of her. And he came out the same hour.
So even though she was co-signing on the disciples, Paul knew that it was a spirit that was trying to separate itself so that it can continue to use the person. He looked and talked to the spirit and said, listen, I need you to get up out of her. Read.
Verse 19. And when her master saw that the hope of their gains was gone.
So the demon left, and they could not use her for financial gain because they would use her soothsaying to do things and manipulate things for gain. Read.
They caught Paul and Silas and drew them into the marketplace unto the rulers, and brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men, being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city.
So they was upset when the disciples, now this is during the Roman Empire at this time, they're upset because Paul called out a demon that was controlling this soothsayer. Why? Because the system is built on soothsayers and sorcerers and demons. So now they're trying to pull Paul and Silas up in a council to destroy them based on them casting out evil spirits. Now, mind you, you don't see this today. You don't see Christians, preachers, actually going against these soothsayers and trying to cast out spirits out of soothsayers. Why? They have become soothsayers themselves. That's what they do in the church. They give you a word or some understanding of your future prophetically. They are riddled with spirits. So in one turn, they're telling you that they're down with Christ. And then when you look in the Bible and screen them, they're actually the people the disciples were casting demons out of. Listen to this clearly. Read.
Verse 20. And brought them to the magistrates, saying, These men being Jews, do exceedingly trouble our city.
So the Jews under Christ during that time, which were called Christians, were troubling that whole city. Go ahead.
Verse 21. And teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive.
So that's why they were mad at us. Because Christ's teachers, Christ's disciples were teaching customs that the pagans did not want to receive. You see that? So understand this for a second. The Christian churches today are what? Pagan. And they rebuke anyone that come with the customs of the Jews and the gospel of Christ. Think about it. The same thing happened in the past. But we're going to show you how the pagans hijacked Christianity to avoid this from happening in the future. If they was to integrate or absorb Christ's teachings and control them, then people wouldn't have the power to cast out the demons or know the enemy. Listen to this clearly. Read.
And teach customs which are not lawful for us to receive, neither to observe, being Romans.
Neither to observe, being what?
Being Romans.
Being Romans. So according to the Bible, Romans did not want to hear or receive Christ's teachings. They did not want people to have demons cast out of them. They wanted to use the sorcerers for gain. Now, how can these same Romans turn around and become the authority of the Christian church? Think about it. How can we readily receive information and scriptural doctrine from a people and society that was established to go against Christ from the beginning? Christian churches don't even question this. All Christian churches come out of the Roman Catholic Church. So then, if a Christian church is trying to be righteous according to the Bible, the first thing they should do is examine this and say, you know what? Have I taken on pagan, evil beliefs and doctrines from an antichrist society or an antichrist empire? Have we been infiltrated or compromised in any manner? Read 23rd verse.
Verse 23.
Matter of fact, read 22 and 23. Let's see if the Romans wanted to embrace Christ in the disciples. Read the 22nd and 23rd verse.
Verse 22. And the multitude rose up together against them, and the magistrates rent off their clothes, and commanded to beat them.
So, instead of embracing these disciples of Christ, they ripped off their clothes and commanded these disciples to be beaten, to be beat, to be whipped. Why? Because they did something evil or wrong? No. Because they cast out a spirit from a woman that had a familiar spirit, a demon in her, in which the magistrates and the hierarchy used as gain. Okay, so that's why you don't see people casting out spirits and familiar spirits and all that in the earth today, because the Christian church have hid the truth of the true discipleship. They have become the soothsayers. And if you try to bring them truth and understanding, they will look to destroy you. They will look to beat you. Why? Because there's been an infiltration. We're going to go over that soon. Read the next verse.
Verse 23. And when they had laid many stripes upon them, they cast them into prison, charging the jailer to keep them safely.
So, then they beat them and threw them in prison. Now, who did this to the disciples? The Roman Catholic, the Romans did this to the disciples. So how can the same Romans who were once enemies of Christ become the authority to teach the world about Christ? Let's get Acts 17. Let's read the 16th verse.
Acts chapter 17, verse 16. Now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him when he saw the city wholly given to idolatry.
Now Athens is a Grecian city. The Romans worship Athens, which is actually a god also. It says, now while Paul waited for them at Athens, his spirit was stirred in him. When he did what?
When he saw the city wholly given to idolatry.
When he seen the whole city given to idolatry. Now, the disciples, idolatry and seeing idols around made the disciples uncomfortable. So how can we be in these days and times and look at a Roman Catholic Church and have an idol of the disciple Paul, when Paul was stirred up against any idols, or a statue of Peter and the disciples, when the disciples loathed such actions? Why? Idolatry was against the first commandment of the Most High. Idolatry is evil according to the Jews' customs. So how can we let sorcerers and idolaters now be the authority concerning the Word of God? These things are never questioned. So because we bring this truth, we ridicule. We may go to our parents' house or someone's house and say, well, who's that on your wall? And they'll say, well, that's a picture of Jesus. When the disciples were against such idolatry, they have made Christ an idol. But let's go back into their agenda. Let's go into their agenda. Let's go to Acts 18. The first and second verse.
Acts chapter 18, verse 1. After these things Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them.
Now, it says, and found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy, with his wife Priscilla. Now, these were Jews which were in Italy. Let you know that these are remnant of Hannibal's seed that took over, that was all in Italy at one point. And it says here, read on.
With his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome.
Commanded what?
Because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome.
Now, Claudius Caesar commanded that all Jews depart from Rome. Why? How can the Roman Catholic Church be the authority and expel these particular Jews, which are Christians, from Rome? Why? Why? We're going to go into that later about Hannibal. Why? This is why. Well, even before Hannibal, you had what you call a dispersion in different parts of Europe of the Jews which were converted into paganism. So Claudius, which was a high sorcerer, and he dealt with the spirit of homosexuality regularly. This guy dealt with demons, spirits, drink blood, the sacrificing of animals, and all that. Look up Claudius Caesar and look up the pagan practices of Claudius Caesar. Type that in sometimes. He didn't want the truth of Christ within his empire. Why? Because these had the power to cast out spirits. And if you cast out spirits, the Roman Empire loses their power. They are used by the beast. They relish. They relish and live to deal with familiar spirits and seers. They have seers as their advisors. They always dealt with sorcery and witchcraft. But these spirits cannot contend with Christ's teachings. They cannot contend with the power of Peter and Paul and the disciples who were converting and casting out spirits all through Rome. So as long as Christ's doctrine gained steam, the Roman Empire would lose power. So, Claudius Caesar was an Idumean. He was Edom. Okay? Now, so in order for an empire to take away this spiritual threat, yes, he was white. In order for them to take away this spiritual threat, the Roman Empire had to now become a cunning power. And what they did, they started using the powers or the spirit of divide and conquer. You had a Jewish sect which were also Idumeans during this time, which were converts after the Maccabean period. These were set up under Julius Caesar. You had a remnant of them under Herod that began paganism within the temple under Herod the Great. The same Herod that tried to kill Christ. Yes, he was an Idumean. So the Roman Catholic Church was able to infiltrate the power structure of the Jews by setting up Antipas, then his grandson Herod ruling, and marrying a Jew wife. And they infiltrated through conversion. So now at this time, they can play both sides of the fence. They can play the Roman Empire and they can play the Jews. You get what we're saying here? You have one family, which are the Roman Empire and Idumeans, playing both sides through politics. So thousands of years roll by, and you think that these two are two separate families, but they're working with the same agenda. Think about it. One is working in commerce and finances and the political structure, and the other is working on the spiritual side also, commerce, political structure, and they both have an agenda for one world order and conquest under Satan's rule. But they're playing both sides of the fence so you can think they're separate through religion, when really they are one and the same. The Jesuit order are Jewish powers. The Jesuit order is a faction of the Roman Catholic Church. They're one and the same. Now, this information alone, believe it or not, is enough to wake many people up, because they don't know who's behind the deception. Because both powers are controlling the mindsets and the fiscal structure of this earth. They control your religion. They control everything. And they're playing both sides of the fence. But yet they'll make you think they're separate. They are one and the same, and they were together under Julius Caesar. They were together under Julius Caesar. All right? The Jewish powers always had the power in Idumea. The people you call Jewish people today controlled the commerce. They always did this. Julius Caesar thought that he was too big and started bucking up against the financial structure at that time. They assassinated and killed him, because whoever controlled the money controls the Caesar's seat. So, if these people can control at that time, what makes you think they're not controlling now? They're the people that, just like they set up the Caesars, they set up your Roman Pope. Yes, the Caesar line is the same bloodline of the papacy is the same bloodline as the Roman Catholic Church, where the deadly wound was healed. They're the same Caesars, the same bloodline, the same Idumean bloodline, linked directly back to the Caesars. Herod the Great. Look at Herod the Great's bloodline. Herod the Great's bloodline right now links to Bush, links to Cheney, yes, links to Barack Obama on his mother's side. Absolutely. These are the same power structures that were set up under Caesar. These are antichrist structures. Now, I can't go through the whole book, but this is a good book to get, called History of the First Council of Nicaea. What happened, yes, Aleister Crowley, the Satanist, is also linked to Herod and the Idumeans. What happened is that because Christ gave the disciples power, unfounded power that was not in the earth before that time, to cast out spirits, to take out spirits, they were a threat to the Roman Catholic evil regime, or the Roman regime at that time. So Constantine, being a pagan, here's a picture of him, a statue of him. He had a meeting with all the top psychologists and historians at that time of all religions. He said we must come together and create a universal religion. Not because he wanted all people to pray and be under one power under God. They needed an allegiance against this teaching that Christ was bringing forth that was destroying the Romans at that time and converting people out of paganism. So they needed a concerted effort with all the demons and spirits and powers that were dealing with idolatry to come together to compromise Christ's teachings. So they came together. But in order to deceive the people, they had to use the records, or use the records that we call the Bible today, or the Hebrew records, as the foundation in which they would hold or hoard to themselves, since these books or these records could cause the biggest threat. They had to control them. And what they did was they integrated paganism with Christianity. The compromise laid more so on the believer's side, the people who believed in Christ, because they had to give up the most. If they didn't compromise, then Constantine and his political cronies would make waves or destroy them financially, will try to smear their character, or kill them altogether. That's the Arian dispute that's written of during the Council of Nicaea. That's the Arian dispute. So the compromise was saying, well, okay, we as people have to respect each other's religion. It wasn't about respect. It was about allowing these demons to survive within their religions, so that Christ's spirit cannot cast out the demons that were controlling all these pagan religions in the earth. It wasn't about coming together. It was about keeping their power structure and controlling this spirit that Christ brought in the earth, and eventually exterminating or extinguishing it altogether. That was the plan. The biggest compromise or burden of the compromise fell on the Jews who followed Christ. They had to compromise their holy day. They could no longer look at the Sabbath day in which the Most High said, remember to keep it holy. They could no longer acknowledge that day as a holy day. They had to acknowledge the pagan Sunday day. And he said, here's the compromise. Your Christ rose on the first day of the week. So you just celebrate Christ's rising on the same day we celebrate our pagan deities. Therefore, you can still do it to Christ, but we don't lose our power, the spirits that are empowering our religion. Arian wasn't going for it. It's called the Arian dispute. They poisoned and killed Arian. Do your research, do your history. The Bible have holy days in the Bible. They compromised and say, listen, we have our pagan days that benefit our people. I'll tell you what, you can keep the name of your gods. Let us keep our traditions. But through time, the traditions Through time, the traditions overcame the followers of Christ. Some would call that. You call that. Okay. One moment. So, through the traditions, eventually the traditions overcame the people of Christ. Now, let me get into the Bible and reel this in to show you the great deception. The greatest deception comes from the Roman Catholic Church, or Rome. The Idumeans that ruled, or the money changers that Christ actually whipped out of the temple, were the fathers of the Jewish powers today that control the money today. They infiltrated the temple under Herod the Great, who was an Idumean himself. He was not a Jew according to blood. Okay? He was set up as a governor over Judea, the first Gentile ruler over Judea. Now, last week, there was some history taught how King James had to authorize a translation during his time, knowing that the Roman Catholic Church was reborn as the Renaissance period, and they were taking down the black or dark thrones during the Dark Ages, and King James sat on 3 thrones at once. France, Ireland, and Great Britain at once. He was called the King of Scots. They killed him. Well, eventually, there's some poison that's connected with his death, but it's still it's a conspiracy that haven't been solved up until this time. I guess it would be like the modern day assassinations we have today. He was known for his content against the Roman Catholic Church and the threat that the Catholic Church would have towards Christ's pure doctrine. We went over that, so I'm not going to go over that. That's some information that'll be readily available for you. Now, there's another brother during the time of a little before King James called Martin Luther. Martin Luther also had records against the Roman Catholic Church and their agenda. I need you to read some of what you have there, lawyer, and give them the title of what you have.
Okay, this is an excerpt.
Speak a little louder.
This is an excerpt from a book called Luther's Works, which are the works of Martin Luther. And in Luther's Works, Volume 2, page 281, you can find this excerpt. It says, "O Christ, my Lord, look down upon us and bring upon us the day of judgment, and destroy the brood of Satan at Rome. There sits the man of whom the Apostle Paul wrote, that he would oppose and exalt himself above all that is called the Most High."
Hold up, I need you to read that again. What's the name of this?
It's Luther's Works, Volume 2, page 281.
Luther's work, I want to make sure they get this. Volume what?
Volume 2, page 281.
Volume 2, page
281.
281.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. You can find this yourself. Excuse me. Luther's Works, Volume 2, page 281. Read that.
"O Christ, my Lord, look down upon us and bring upon us the day of judgment."
Bring upon us the days of judgment. Read.
"And destroy the brood of Satan at Rome."
And destroy the what?
And destroy the brood of Satan at Rome.
And destroy the what?
The brood of Satan at Rome.
The brood of Satan at Rome. So Satan was the spirit controlling Rome during Martin Luther's time. Read.
"There sits the man of whom the Apostle Paul wrote, that he would oppose and exalt himself above all that is called the Most High, the man of sin, the son of perdition.
At this time, they're talking about who? The Pope. Why? The Pope bloodline links directly to the Caesars, who were set up under Satan. So Martin Luther, who was a serious biblical historian during that time, tried to defend the content of the gospel during the tail end of the Dark Ages. Read. I need you to go into what Martin Luther gave us, and what we need to see the bullet points of Martin Luther and what he was trying to get us to understand concerning the Roman Catholic Church and the papacy. What was he trying to stop the Romans from teaching within doctrine? It's in this doctrine. It's in this document, Luther Works, Volume 2, page 281. And it goes into the things that Martin Luther was fighting against. What was the first thing that he said ignore if they try to teach this?
It says, it was well known at this time in history that the upholders of Satan's Antichrist teachings were the Roman Catholic Church.
At this time, there was no question that Satan's teachings were through the Roman Catholic Church. Go ahead.
No, so I want to clear up, before I continue going into this, I want to clear up, this is information that we put together. This is not in the Luther's works. This is information that we put together. It says, it was also well understood that the Antichrist spoken of in the Bible was a governmental structure opposed to one man.
It's a what?
It was also well understood that the Antichrist spoken of in the Bible was a governmental structure opposed to one man.
So in the 1500s, in the turn of the 16th century, it was well known that the anti-government was the Antichrist instead of looking at one particular man. They knew it clearly back then. Paul knew it. But something happened. Something happened when we live in a society that's waiting for one man to pop up as the Antichrist. When they understood exactly what was going on in the 16th century. These records are out there that you can find yourself to show you that the Roman Catholic Church was opposing Christ since Rome. So you can't believe any doctrine or influence they have in Christ's doctrine. They started bringing forth the understanding to make people look at a man opposed to a government structure, because why? They were the government structure in rule. No way they wanted people looking at them as the Antichrist. So they got their psychologists, because that's what they are, and their philosophers together and say, listen, we must structure something to revert this bad publicity off of Rome. Let's tell them that it's a man opposed to a government. Read.
This is what set the stage for the Roman Catholic Church to bring forth one of the biggest doctrines to influence modern day Christianity.
It says, this is what set the stage for the Roman Catholic Church to bring forth one of the biggest doctrines to influence modern day Christianity. That doctrine of one Antichrist, and you see this in the movies like Left Behind, the little fiction lies that are backed by the Vatican. They got so many lies in that Left Behind book and movie that it's ridiculous. Waiting for an Antichrist. Waiting for two of the prophets to be prophesying outside in Jerusalem. Waiting for people to disappear out of nowhere. And then after they disappear, one man, one political ruler rise up as the Antichrist. And those believers in Christ stand against the mark of the beast. And then Christ comes again. He raptured the people, then he come again after a 7-year period. All lies and deception. Finish reading.
As a result of this, many people started removing themselves from the Roman Catholic faith.
So people started leaving the Roman Catholic faith once they began this teaching, actually diverting people from the truth. Read.
During the year 1585, a Jesuit general by the name of Ignatius Loyola.
Let me type this in so they can actually look at this themselves. Ignatius
Loyola.
Loyola. A Jesuit named Ignatius Loyola. Now, mind you, these people link directly to the Jewish powers we have today. The Jesuit order is strictly the so-called Jewish powers sect within the Roman Catholic Church. They're one and the same. So the Romans didn't go anywhere. They converted. They converted into Judaism. They became your Khazars during the time of what we call the during the time of the Crusades, when they were pressed between the Christians and the Muslims. They converted to Judaism. But before that, they were the remnant of the serpent people. They were Roman Empire. They were Rome. They were Roman. So they hid themselves by changing their names. Sounds familiar? Hid themselves by changing their names. Let's see what other content of doctrine they had up their sleeve.
It says, during the year 1585, a Jesuit general by the name of Ignatius Loyola sent forth a decree to fellow Jesuit Francisco Ribera to compose a 500-page commentary of Revelations.
So they paid someone, a deceiver, to make a 500-page, a 500-page commentary on Revelations that would one day become an authoritative record in the future. See their deception? So they came together and said, listen, we cannot thrive if the people know that we are the Antichrist government and power structure of the earth. So let's get together, let's get the historians together, let's get the philosophers together, and let's do a commentary in which we can divert the people in the future from understanding what those that are living today understand. They knew they were the Antichrist back then. See, but when you live in a society and the majority of people are dumbed down and you're dealing with slaves with no history, these records become authority. And because you have no substance or history to draw from, you believe it's doctrine. Continue to read.
This entire commentary was written in Latin and was titled En Sacram Beati Ionis Apostoli and Evangelistique Apocalypsin Commentary.
And Latin is Satan's tongue also. Latin is Satan's tongue. And they did it in Latin. Read on.
Within this 500-page commentary.
Within this 500-page commentary was what?
Ribera was instructed to push the following ideas.
Ribera, by the Jesuit order in the Roman Catholic Church, in his 500-page commentary, was forced to push this particular doctrine in this book. What's the first thing he had to push or promote?
The Antichrist is one man.
The Antichrist is what?
The Antichrist is one man.
The idea of the Antichrist being one man came from the Roman Catholic Church to divert people from them. Read.
The Antichrist is one man, opposed to a government structure.
So we need you to put in this commentary. Now we know Jesuits. Now you need to look up history of the Jesuits. I'm going to give you this information. Y'all need this. History of the Jesuits. These are high sorcerers that link directly to the Jewish powers today. Believe it or not, you see those people in all black in Jerusalem with the curly locks and all that? Believe it or not, they are a faction from the Jesuit order. They follow the same witchcraft and sorcery. This is where the Roman Catholic Church recycled their Jesuits and their Jesuit council through the Jewish powers. They are one of the same. Now, what did the Jesuit order do? The Jesuits were with Christopher Columbus. They were with the conquerors, the conquistadors. They were the power structure and the evil spirits over the captivity of our people over in the western coast of Africa. They were behind the destruction of the North American Indians. Their political mindset and sorcery allowed the Roman Catholic Church to take down the earth. They are top sorcerers. And the Jesuits played all sides, and they hide themselves. But they have an agenda. They had an agenda here. The Catholic Church called the Jesuits and say, listen, people know that we are Satan's people. How can we divert this? They got some professionals together and say, listen, let's make a book 500 commentary in the future so that we can take this stigma off of us. Number one, we have to tell people that the Antichrist is one man, opposed to government structure. And we will pay people to teach this. We will pay your theologians because we own the theologian churches. We own the authority of the book. So they'll have to come to us. So what we'll do is we'll pay people to tell everyone that the Antichrist is one man, and we'll continue to fuel and fund this false agenda. Okay? Opposed to a government structure. So instead of teaching who the Antichrist is, they would teach that it's one man in which no one can find. And then, in turn, teach everybody that the governments in the earth are set up by God, and you must follow the government powers, or you're not following God. So they trick the people into following Satan. They deceive the people. Just by that one little bullet point, that one idea. So you feel that, listen, I don't have to get my life right at this point because the Antichrist hasn't been revealed yet. So we have time. They wanted you to think that. I'm going to prove that. What's the second bullet?
The Antichrist would build a temple in Jerusalem.
In the 1500s, they came up with this book and said, we're going to also put in doctrine that the Antichrist, which is one man, would build a temple in Jerusalem. I need to type this so they can get this. Spell it for me. That whole document.
INSACRUM BEATIOA
Hold up, this is a separate word, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold up. You got it.
After the BEATI, you want to put a space.
In subroom.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
The next word is IOA.
Go ahead.
NNIS, excuse me.
Go ahead.
AP.
Go ahead.
OST.
Go ahead.
OLI.
Go ahead.
And
go ahead.
EVA.
Evangel.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
ISTI. AE.
AE.
APOC. ALY.
Apocalypse.
Mm-hmm. SIN.
Sin. Apocalypse sin. Hold
Mm-hmm.
up. Hold on. Okay, what's the last one?
COMM.
Commentary.
Mm-hmm. Well, two eyes on here.
Here's the name of the, y'all need to copy and paste that and look that up yourself. This is the origin of the Roman Catholic Church, and they actually did this document in 500 pages. So they wanted people to believe that the Antichrist was one man opposed to a government structure. They wanted people to believe the Antichrist would build a temple in Jerusalem. See, and that's why you have these news articles and all these things coming out, because they're financing this to divert you from what they're doing and who they are. It's a waste of time waiting for an Antichrist and waiting for someone to rule in Jerusalem. It's a waste of time. They're already ruling in Jerusalem. They're already on the seat. What's the third one?
The Antichrist will abolish Christianity.
This is something else they wanted to teach, that the Antichrist would come and abolish Christianity. So if they make a situation in which it threatens Christianity, Christians would band together to teach this doctrine to go against the Antichrist. Psychology, this is what they're using. That this Antichrist would come and try to abolish Christianity. So we must be able to identify him, so we'll know when we're threatened. That was part of what was in this document, this deceptive document. They don't want to abolish Christianity. Christianity is paganism. They need paganism because the peoples pray within these temples and empower the Roman gods. They need Christianity. But they're teaching this. Why would they want to abolish Christianity when Christianity keeps their pagan gods alive? Read that again.
The Antichrist will abolish Christianity and make a covenant with the Jews.
And make a covenant with the Jews. This was one of their agendas in this record the Jesuit order set up. A lie. What was the next thing they wanted people to believe?
The Antichrist will call himself God.
That the Antichrist would come in. Now, what government leader would come out and say, I'm God? You waiting for that? The government leaders will tell you a lot of these people are atheists. They don't even believe in they don't even publicly acknowledge the Most High at all. Mm-hmm. These same people are behind the Big Bang Theory, Darwin's theory. So now, so who's going to stop? What people will stop an assassination of a God that'll pop up and say he's God? Ridiculous. But they wrote this in the 16th century and say we're going to deceive the world into believing this so they can chase a ghost while we're ruling the world with an antichrist government. We're going into these scriptures on this too. What's the next one?
The Antichrist will not be revealed until 7 years before Christ returns.
The Antichrist will not be revealed until 7 years before Christ returns. Now, wouldn't this take away from Christ's teachings when he says, no man knoweth the day or the hour? Mm-hmm. Soon as a political guy stand up and say he's God, okay, I can open up my calendar and count 7 years, and I'll know exactly when Christ is coming. Therefore, I got 7 years to get myself together and make it into the kingdom of heaven. This is the deception. Ridiculous. If no man know the day or the hour, how can this God pop up 7 years before Christ returns? And I need someone to tell me, and I've been waiting for a Christian to tell me this for the longest, to explain to me. Show me somewhere in the Bible where there's a 7-year period of an antichrist ruling. Don't pull out a calculator and start dealing with all levels of conjecture. Show me in the Bible where the Antichrist is ruling for 7 years. Is it in there? No, because it's not. It's a deception that came from the Jesuit order, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Jewish powers. Mm-hmm. And you notice the Jewish powers who claim they have a separate religion from the Roman Catholics, which is Christianity, do not fight or argue with the Roman doctrine. They do not go against the Roman doctrine. They're one and the same. There's more. What's the next thing they wanted people to believe?
The Antichrist will conquer the world.
That the Antichrist will conquer the world. Read.
And the last one.
Now, if the Antichrist is going to conquer the world, how can he do this without a political influence and an order where all the governments of the earth agree with him? So really, what they're saying is that the world is going to come together under Satan with an Antichrist government. And that's true. But it's not going to take one man. They have done it already. They have done that already. They have assumed the power they've been trying to assume for years. They've controlled the earth through the money system. And now, they don't care if you believe it or not, because they were able to divert you long enough to get their grasp on the whole earth. They have diverted you long enough. They don't care if you know now. But back then, Martin Luther tried to stop them. James tried to stop them. King James. Anyone that tried to stop them, they moved out of the way. What's the last one?
Number 7. The Christians or the church will be raptured into heaven.
Hold up. This is the 16th century. And he wrote this. The last but not least. Listen to this. Read.
The Christians or the church will be raptured into heaven before the Antichrist appears.
Man. This was part of their deception. We will teach these Christians. The Christians or the church will be raptured into heaven before the Antichrist appears. So now they got you out of their hair. If they can make you believe these 7 points, you are no threat to the satanic powers that are ruling the earth. You are no threat. Why? Because you're chasing a ghost that don't exist. It is the government structures that are ruled by Satan, and we can prove it. Go to 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, please. Get Revelations 13. But let's get 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 8 first. And then we'll get Daniel 7, 7 and 9. You got it? All right. Let's read 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 8 first. Read it.
2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 1. Now we beseech you, brethren, by the coming of our Lord Yeshua Christ, and by our gathering together unto him, that ye be not soon shaken in mind, or be troubled, neither by spirit, nor by word, nor by letter as from us, as that day of Christ is at hand.
The day of Christ or Yeshua is at hand. Read.
Verse 3. Let no man deceive you.
Read that again.
Let no man deceive you.
Roman Catholics.
Let no man deceive you.
The Jesuits.
Let no man deceive you.
Jewish powers.
Let no man deceive you.
Christian leaders.
Let no man deceive you.
Let no man deceive you. Paul is showing here that there will be a mass deception to divert you from the true understanding of Christ's coming. We gave you the origin of that mass deception. Read.
Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first.
First, there must be a big falling away. God's people fell away. They had to be destroyed or taken down first. That's what it's talking about. The information that Peter and Paul was teaching before Constantine came on the scene. It was a big fall away or a dark period once Constantine came in with the Nicene Creed and integrated paganism with Christianity. So now the true gospel is nowhere in the earth based on this destruction of integrating or compromising with the Roman Catholic Church. Read. And that man of sin, read.
And that man of sin be revealed.
And they tell you in Christianity, well, this man of sin is the Antichrist. But we're going to show you who the man of sin is. Read.
The son of perdition.
The son of perdition, read.
Verse 4. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High.
Who do what?
Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High.
Now, if you want to go into the man of sin, I'm just going to give you an overview. This information will be documented so that you can have it, but I'm going to give you an overview. Let's examine when Christ told the Pharisees at that time, you are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. You were a murderer from the beginning. So that man of sin must be revealed. In order to understand the man of sin or the content of the man of sin or the mark of the man, you must go back to the first murderer. The first murderer was Cain, who slew his brother. Cain had a child. When you look into the book of Jubilees, he got with his sister Awan because Adam and Eve had sons and daughters. When you look in the book of Jubilees, it's easy to understand. He had children, and these children were the children of Cain. When you go into Genesis, the 6th chapter, what it says, and the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and went and slept with these women. These women, or the daughters of men, the daughters of men who were fair, are Cain's daughters. These daughters slept with angels and bare Nephilim. They end up on the other side of the flood in the land of Canaan. They had children. Eventually, the Hittites, which you can translate also to Horites, linked in to the children of Esau in Genesis 36 and had children. These children are the seed of Amalek, whom the Most High tried to destroy in the Old Testament, who decreed be destroyed, but they escaped. And they had children. These children became the Romans. These Roman people are the same people as the Jewish powers today. That man of sin must be revealed. They were a murderer from the beginning, and the Horites linked with these powers and had children. And these are those children today. These are these children. I need you to follow me clearly here. So they're being revealed. I'll go into how they survived the flood at another time. But now they're being revealed. Now, what do we know about these people? Read.
Verse 4. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called the Most High.
They exalt themselves above all that is called the Most High. Are they not calling themselves the Jews, God's chosen people? Are they not exalting themselves over the earth? Do they not control the finances all over the earth and the power structure of this earth? Are they not worshipped in this earth? Read.
Or that is worshipped, so that he as the Most High sitteth in the temple of the Most High.
He sitteth in the temple of the Most High. Read.
Showing himself that he is the Most High.
Showing himself that he is the Most High, because they set themselves up in the Vatican again as the papacy, called the Holy Father, and have people kissing their ring. These are all Roman and Jewish powers. They're the same families. They're Jewish. They're not Jews through blood. They are the seed of the Idumeans, and they link directly to the seed of Cain and the children of Nephilim. But Now they're in control. They're using their influence to deceive the world, to divert people or to distract people from them. Read.
Verse 5. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things.
Go ahead.
Verse 6. And now ye know that with what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work.
Read it again.
For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work.
So how can you be waiting on an antichrist to sit in a temple when Paul is telling you that they was working during the time he was living? Who was working during the time he was living? The Roman Caesars. They just changed their names. They're over your papacy and they're over your government, your Jewish power government in Israel today, where Satan's seat is. It used to be in Pergamos, like it says in Revelation 2nd chapter, but they moved into Jerusalem in 1948, and that's where Satan's seat is. So you're waiting for them to set up a temple and a people or a pope when they're already there. They're there. So you're behind the 8 ball waiting for something to happen, waiting for a temple to be constructed, and waiting for the pope to sit there. He's sitting there right now. They're the same people, the same family lineage. Read.
For the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. Only he who now letteth will let, until he be taken out of the way.
So the Most High is letting them rule until he take them out of the way. Read on.
Verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed.
Then shall that wicked be revealed. Read.
Whom the Most High, or whom the Lord, shall consume with the spirit of his mouth.
Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, to let you know Christ is going to deal with them when he returns. Read.
And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming.
So if we want to know who this man is, or they claim a man or a society or rulership, we need to go into Christ's coming to understand who they is, right? Let's go to Daniel's. Let's go to the book of Daniel and go to the 7th chapter and start at the 9th verse.
Daniel chapter 7 verse 9.
I need you to hold Thessalonians, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's Daniel 7:9 and read through 11.
I beheld till the thrones were cast down,
Go ahead.
and the Ancient of Days did sit,
That's the Most High. He's more ancient than days. Read.
whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000s times 10,000s stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame.
So who was destroyed? The beast. Read it again.
Verse 11. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. And I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame.
So now we know that power that's going to be destroyed by the brightness of Christ's coming is this horn or this beast. So is it one man? Let's see. Let's go to Revelations 13. Hold that. Go to Revelations 13. And hold Thessalonians 2.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start at the first verse.
Revelations chapter 13 verse 1. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy.
Now we know these 7 heads and 10 horns is the Roman Catholic Church and the 10 powers that came out of the Roman Catholic Church. So it's not one man that's being slayed by the power of the Most High's coming, by Christ. This is an empire, not one man. The 7 heads is the 7 mountains in which Rome sit. And the 10 horns is the modern day EU that came out of Rome. It's a government structure. During the time of the Reformation, or the time of the 16th century, The Roman Catholics got with the Jesuits, made a document to try to divert people from understanding this. The 7 heads and 10 hordes is a government structure that's controlling the earth. Through who? Finish reading.
Verse
The 2nd
2.
verse.
Verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard,
The leopard represents Alexander the Greek, linking to Daniels. Read.
and his feet were as the feet of a bear.
The empires that came that preceded him. The Babylonian Assyrian, the Persian the Persian Mede Empire. Go ahead.
And his mouth as the mouth of a lion.
The mouth of a lion, which is Babylonian. Read.
And the dragon gave him his power.
And the dragon gave him his power. To show you that this empire is all the wicked empires wrapped up into one. And Satan give them, this government, their power. So you're waiting for one man when it's a government structure that have deceived you. Who did it? The Jesuit order under the Roman Catholic Church. Read.
And the dragon gave him his power, and his seat, and great authority.
And his seat and great authority. So the government structures and the religious structures get their power from Satan. So if you're looking for that man is the children of Amalek that control the Roman Empire and rule the earth today. The spiritual side of this earth, along with the finances and political structure of this earth. They're one and the same. The Romans in the Vatican today are the remnants of the Caesars, and the people that's in Jerusalem today are the remnant of the Caesars. They're from Europe. That's where they're from. Wake up. They're the same people. They're not different. Just because you are divided in so-called religion doesn't mean you're not the same seed. Religion is not race. Okay? They converted to Judaism to deceive the world, to play both sides of the fence. Read.
Verse 3. And I saw one of his heads, as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all of the world wondered after the beast.
So he was wounded in 193 AD during the Dark Ages, the beginning of the Dark Ages, when the generals or the Jews conquered Rome and ruled in what this society called the Dark Ages. And the deadly wound was healed during what they call in their colleges the Renaissance period. Think about this. And they moved their powers over to America to divert the world and made America the fall guy. But when America falls, they will still rule for a space, a short season. Let's go back to Daniel and prove that. Read the 11th verse and the 12th verse again.
Verse 11. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake. And I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed, and given to the burning flame.
So that beast is not a man. Beast, when you look in Revelations, is empires. So that's a lie that they're teaching in the Seventh-day Adventist doctrine about the papacy. And believe it or not, they are set up by the papacy to push this agenda of the Jesuits. Just because they worship on the Sabbath doesn't mean anything if they're pushing a satanic doctrine that have no scriptural foundation. They want to point you to the papacy about them sitting over there in Rome. The papacy is the seat of the Pope. Read.
Verse 12. As concerning the rest of the beast.
Concerning the rest of the beasts or empires. Read.
They had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and time.
That's the short space in Revelation 17. Read.
Verse 13. I saw in the night visions, and beheld, one like the Son of Man, came with the clouds of heaven, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him.
So Christ is going to come to destroy these powers in the earth. And they have deceived the earth into making you believe that they are God's people and the authority on Christianity. Christ said, "Be not deceived. Many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall destroy many." And it tell you in the Revelations, "He that have an ear, let him hear." The mark is 666, the mark of a man. The first mark was placed on who? Cain. The first mark was placed on Cain. So these people are not just regular people. They got the spirit of the children of Cain, the first murderer, who linked in with fallen angels during the time of Jared. The Most High decreed Noah to build an ark and prophesied that only the elect would come on this ark. Him, his sons, and their wives were the only people that escaped the deluge. Og, OG, made it to the other side of the flood. He was the king of Bashan in the Bible. He made it to the other side of the flood. Abraham warred against the kings of Solomon, which were also children of Nephilim, and took the spoils. Yes, giants. Moses, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, our foreparents, warred and killed Og and smit Og on the ankle. You can read that in the book of Jasher. Why did he smite him on the ankle to kill him? Og had a boulder. He's a giant, had a boulder on his back. He lived a long time, the king of Bashan, and he was killed by Moses. He had a boulder on his back that represents the idol you see with Atlas holding the world on his back. That big circle, that was Og. In Greek mythology, that's Og, a god, a Nephilim, who tried to kill the children of Israel from on a mount, and Moses went and smit his Achilles and killed him. That Og had children, that children of a Nephilim, who after they were taken down when the wall of Jericho fell, they ran into Mount Seir. When Esau was born, after his curse, he was banished into the Mount Seir area. And who did he meet up with? The children of the Horites and the Hivites, and had children. Eliphaz had a son, Amalek. And Amalek is the father of the Roman Empire. These are all Edomites. The Roman Empire split off from a political faction to a spiritual faction under what we would call the Jewish sect, under Antipas and Herod the Great. These children have the same spirit to splice animals, to use science and all that. They did it before the flood, and they're doing it today. These same powers are ruling the earth today, splicing animals with people. The same thing they did before the flood to try to do what? Take out the Most High creation. Genetically modifying everything to destroy the Most High's creation. These are the seed of Cain from the beginning. Don't forget, the Most High said, told Eve, he shall put war against the woman seed and the serpent seed. That man of sin have been revealed. So in the beginning, they had men serve them until men can no longer serve them. They started eating people and killing people before the flood. Now they're doing it today. They're setting up a structural system to make people, God's creation, serve them in a slave society. This is what they're doing today, to make people serve them or starve them out and kill them. Or you have to get a chip to operate within their society, which is the mark of the beast. these are the same people. So all this information and more will be in what we will reveal to you all in the future. But I wanted to show this through the Spirit of the Most High, so that you cannot be deceived. So you will have the resources to war in this spiritual battle. We wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities and powers in high places, and the workers of the rulers that operate in dark places and high places in this earth. And they're not here to tell you the truth. Your preachers are bought and paid. As long as they teach the doctrine, they get their financial breaks and don't have to pay a dime to the government. They are deceived. They don't want to know the truth. They will back a lie regardless of scripture. They don't want the truth. They want their tradition. And with that, I'm going to say blessings, and I hope you got some information tonight. And if you have any questions, we'll open it up for questions at this point, and then we'll have to break down. But this teaching, we